Hey, it's Liberty, and today I'm going to be wrapping up all the books I read in January and talking about the books that I am excited to read on my February TBR, plus a couple little cultural things that I've been loving this month. If you like this, do give it a little thumbs up, and I make all sorts of videos about books, history, personality, music, all sorts of things, so do check those out if you want. I'm going to get straight into it. The first book I read in January is The Virgin Widow by Anne O'Brien. Now, this is a historical fiction novel and it is set during the Wars of the Roses, and we follow Anne Neville, who is the daughter of the Earl of Warwick, who has been given the title the Kingmaker due to his prowess in putting kings on the throne of England. This book starts as she's fleeing with her family from England to Calais, and it sort of flashes back to her childhood and we sort of see her grow up. We see her relationship with her sister and how that changes over time, and her relationship with the future Richard III and how that changes over time. I love the spirit of history. I love the Wars of the Roses. I've read quite a few of Anne O'Brien's novels now and they're just great. A big part of Anne's story in this novel is all about medieval inheritance laws, which is a lot more interesting than it sounds. Her parents had two daughters and they were massive landowners and they're from very powerful families. Both of her parents were. There's all sorts of scheming from a lot of different people to get hold of this land and this money. And honestly, Anne O'Brien did a really great job getting me infuriated on her behalf, considering that she's, a member of the aristocracy. During this time, my family's English ancestors were very likely being oppressed by the aristocracy. So it also provided a new perspective on Anne's choices of how she lived her life and, what she did. No matter how much you have or what you own, it is very infuriating when someone obviously tries to take that away from you because they want more, even though they already have stuff. I feel like everybody can relate to that on any kind of level. I rated this 3.5 stars, very solid read, very enjoyable, a good one to start off the year. The second book I read in January was a faux love story by Lonely. This is a dual perspective YA romance novel following two characters, Lynn and Bao. They are both Vietnamese American, and this is very much a sort of Romeo and Juliet style romance. Their families own competing Vietnamese restaurants and they feuded for as long as both of them can remember. They both work at their family's restaurants and they've been drawn into this feud whether they like it or not, and they've never really spoken to each other. However, in a chance encounter they get drawn together and sparks really fly. I really enjoyed this because their personal storylines are concerning, what they want to do with their lives, and they kind of have opposite issues. Bao very much doesn't know what he wants to do with his life and he has to figure that out. Whereas Lynn knows exactly what she wants to do with her life. She just has to sort of convince her parents that she knows what's best for herself and she knows what is going to make her happy. The contrast between these storylines worked really well and I very much resonated with Lynn's. There's something so gratifying about watching people sort of take their place in the world where they choose to be. There were interesting side characters and I enjoyed sort of finding out the origins of this feud, and it was really nice that there was no obsessing over, grades and, you're going to get into Harvard because that's a stereotype I can live without. This again was a 3.5 star read, solid, enjoyable. The final book I read this month was a reread and it was Persuasion by Jane Austen. Persuasion is all about Anne Elliot, who is 27 years old, and when she was younger, when she was about 20, she was in love with Frederick Wentworth and she declined his offer of marriage. She was persuaded out of it by her friend, Lady Russell, who's sort of like a surrogate mother to her after her mother died. Years later, he is now Captain Wentworth. He has money and position and he has been very hurt this whole time by her refusal. When Anne's family have to rent out their huge big country house, she finds herself in the same sphere as Captain Wentworth and she has to deal with that and reckon with her feelings. I am currently the same age as Anne Elliot. I have reached the age of my life where come August I will officially be older than every single one of Jane Austen's heroines. That scares me. But in all seriousness, I really like Anne Elliot as a character. I feel like she's really underrated. I'm really looking forward to the adaptation that is coming out with Dakota Johnson and Henry Golding, I think. Yes, please. I know it's so easy to portray Anne as really like timid and quiet, when in reality, the book doesn't give me that impression of her at all. You know, she's bold in terms of giving her opinion on things, and actually her opinion is really respected by most people, you know, excepting her father and older sister. I really enjoy Anne as a character. She only gets bolder as the novel continues, and yeah, I think she's extremely likable, and it's nice to go back to the novel and just experience her how she should be. It's a novel all about second chances and endurance and the power of love, and that sounds really cliche, but staying true to oneself. Really, I love to read family dynamics when it's not the focus of the story. Anyway, I give it 4.25 stars. Great, I love this. I've reread it quite a few times now since I first read it. It's a favourite. I will come back to it again at some point. In terms of TV and film, two big standouts. Spider-Man. Whoa! Heartbreaking, heartwarming, just full of heart. I don't know. My heart was thrown around the place. I really hate crying in public. I really try not to. So I held it in. But did I tear up? Yes. Have I teared up subsequently thinking about it? Yes. Do I think this is an amazing part of this whole new phase that Marvel is going into in terms of like the multiverse and all that stuff? Absolutely. This is going to be a really fun rewatch. So I think no matter how much Spider-Man you have watched and loved, there is something for you and you will enjoy this. I also watched Tick, Tick, Boom, and oh my god, Andrew Garfield has really done a number on me this month. This is a film sort of adaptation, but it's a film that is based around the Tick, Tick, Boom musical, which was written by Jonathan Larson. There are multiple layers to this. It's kind of like Inception. So Tick, Tick, Boom, the musical, is all about Jonathan Larson. It's semi-autobiographical, and he is portraying the character John's quest to get his musical made, and that musical is called Superbia. Yeah, so that's Tick, Tick, Boom, the musical. And actually, I don't really want to describe it a lot because it is just an experience that everyone needs to have. But it is Lin-Manuel Miranda's film directorial debut, and it is written by, I've forgotten what his name is, but he wrote Dear Evan Hansen, the film, but also the musical. He wrote the book for that, the like script. Which I haven't seen either of those, but I know people really, really love the musical. I was a little bit in shock, I think, after I watched it. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since. I'm wondering how, I watched it really recently. I watched it on Saturday, but I'm already thinking, how much time do I have to wait before watching it again? Like, this is definitely going to be one of those films where I will rewatch it constantly. I feel like everyone can relate to the pressure that is sort of be successful as quickly as possible. Like, you have to be as young as possible and be successful. Like, oh, turning 30 is such a huge deal, and if you haven't achieved anything by 30, you're never going to achieve anything. And it's just, of course, it's all bullshit. And watching someone go through that is really gratifying because it's almost like you can tell yourself that at the same time, you know. It's very reassuring. Also, I very much relate to the creative struggle that he was going through, because I have yet to finish one novel, and instead of finishing one, I have just come up with ideas for 3 more. And just as he was putting off writing the song for his musical, I feel like I've been putting off writing the rest of my novel. And I have never been more motivated than now to finish it after watching this film. So here is my most listened to songs in January. Honestly, I only really listen to a lot of new music later on in the month. So apart from Can't Control Myself, that song is amazing. That came out in January. Such a good song, and the music video is great. So on to my TBR for February, and the first book in my TBR is one that I'm currently reading, and I'm so proud of myself because I said at my 2022 TBR that I always want to read Robin Hobb. And I have started the year by reading The Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb, which is the first book in her Live Ship Traders trilogy, which is the second trilogy set in her sort of realm of the Elderlings world. And live ships are pretty self-explanatory. They are literally ships that, you know, are alive. The figurehead on the mast is, you know, can speak and you know, do all of the stuff. It's, you know, magic. These ships are bound to a specific bloodline. The old trader families of Bingtown all have live ships. And in order for a ship to be born and to come alive, 3 generations of the family need to die on deck. We follow a few characters. First is Althea, and she has been aboard her family's live ships since, for a number of years now, and she hopes to always be aboard her. Her father, however, is dying, and her brother-in-law has been the captain of the ship for the last year, and she's sort of been working under him, and she hates it. She hates him, and there is much family drama to unfold for Althea, as obviously her father is near death. We also follow Wintro, who is a trainee priest, and he's actually very happy with his life. He loves being a trainee, and he wants to be a priest and dedicate his life to Sa, which is the god of that, you know, these people believe in. And finally, Kennet is a pirate, and he has aspirations to be a pirate king and to rule over land and men. I mean, I love this. I mean, I knew that Robin Hobb's writing is really up my street. I love the first trilogy. I love Althea as a character. Oh. And Wintro is very endearing. I've actually also really grown to love Kennet's storyline as well. He's not a very likable character, but he's not supposed to be. And that's the beauty of that storyline and of his character. It's so addictive. Sort of once you're on board with Robin Hobb, you sort of can't get away. I'm halfway through and I can't wait. I'm itching to read more of this. Yeah. The next book on my TBR is Bone Crier's Moon, and that is by Catherine Purdle. This is a duology. Bone Criers are the sort of last descendants of an ancient magic family, and they essentially use animal bones to sort of power themselves up, and they use that magic to pass on people who have died to the afterlife so that they don't end up like stealing the light of people who are still alive. So the main character, she's been preparing from birth to be the family matriarch, and she has reached an age where she has to go through a sort of rite of passage, and that is, unfortunately, to kill the boy that she was destined to love. We have another point of view character who is a young man, and his father was killed by a bone crier, and so he's sort of out for revenge. This was recommended to me as perfect for fans of Stephanie Garber, which I loved the Caraval series, so very excited to listen to this. I've got it saved as an audiobook on Scribd. The next book on my TBR is Jude the Obscure by Thomas Hardy. It was published in 1895, and it was Hardy's last novel, and it was his last novel because it was so controversial and so attacked at the time of publication that he was so affected by this, and he chose to only write poetry until his death. By modern scholars, it is sort of hailed as a prominent work of both feminist and socialist sort of literature. Jude Hawley is the main character, and he is a poor stonemason. He dares to aspire to a university education and a higher place in society than the one that he was allotted. There are frank portrayals of sexuality, marriage, the English class system, religion in this novel. I'm looking forward to seeing the most offensive part for Victorian readers. I'm sure it's offensive in the same way that The Tenant of Wildfell Hall is offensive, and that is literally one of my favourite books, so I kind of have high hopes for this. The final book on my TBR is The Age of Witches by Louisa Morgan. This novel is set in the Gilded Age of New York, which I didn't realise is around 1870 to the turn of the century. In 1692, a woman called Bridget bishop was killed as a witch. 200 years later, two different branches of her descendants have gone in complete opposite directions. One branch uses their magic to sort of help and heal women who are in trouble, and the other do everything in their power to grasp as much power as they can. These two families clash, and our main character is Annis, and she very much has to claim her own power and keep herself from falling to the dark side. I haven't read a book about witches in so long, and it feels like winter is the perfect time to read about, you know, feuds and magic and power and all of that stuff. Thank you for watching. That was my January wrap up and February TBR. Do let me know how many books you managed to read in January. 3 isn't that much, but you know, if I average this throughout the year, maybe pick up. To be fair, Ship of Magic is chunky. It's like 800 pages. And so being halfway through that, you know, I feel like that's pretty good. Do let me know in the comments what your favourite book you read in January was. I make all sorts of videos about books, history, personality, etc. So do check them out and subscribe if you want. Here's hoping February is a slightly better reading month for me. Happy reading!